Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yep, I can hear you here.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you all for joining the webinar today. Apologies to those of you that were on last week. I would say it's down to technical difficulties, but it was down to me taking a day's holiday and forgetting I was supposed to be presenting a webinar. So there we go. So what we're trying to do, what we are doing, some of you may have attended our weekly webinars last year. What we've decided to do this year is push that out to a monthly webinar series. And when we were looking at what we wanted to do and what we wanted to achieve and the feedback from customers, it was clear that it would be worth us stripping things completely very much back to basics and taking Fortinet from the ground up again. So we're going to be doing this on a monthly basis, and thought the best place to start was with FortiGate. Now, just quickly, appreciate you guys are all on mute, so thank you for that. But how many of you are experienced with Fortinet? How many of you have sort of come to it in the last 6 months to a year? Can I get a quick straw poll?
Experienced with Fortinet.
Okay.
Quite experienced.
Okay, that's good stuff. And mainly around the FortiGate or the enhanced technology portfolio as well?
Mainly the
What's
FortiGate,
Fabric?
the analyzer, manager, that kind of thing.
Okay, and then one of the other responses there was across the FortiFabric. So that's good to hear. So that's something that I will mention and we'll be mentioning throughout the monthly series because it does underpin everything that Fortinet do and all the product range. So what I wanted to quickly do is just sort of reintroduce you all to exclusive networks as well. I imagine hopefully you've all been working with exclusive for some time, but exclusive networks is part of a much bigger group. So exclusive is a collection of 4 separate companies underpinned by, as I said, by the managing group. So there's exclusive networks, which is who you guys have been working with. We are a value-added distributor and looking to redefine what that means. Big Tech, who some of you may be familiar with and some of you may not be, but it's one of our sister organisations. That's all to do with new technology around data centre transformation. We've got Exclusive Capital as well, which I will be talking about a little bit later. Now this is a part of the organisation that was introduced about 1.5 years ago, and we've seen great success with it already, you know, around Fortinet, but also our other vendors as well, and I'll give more details on that. And then iTech, which is our global services organisation for worldwide deployments, etc. And we're working with partners to deploy units all over the globe in terms of shipping, rack and stack, but also wider service than that. So we founded in 2003, privately held company, 36 offices. This time 2 years ago, if I'd been having this conversation, I'd have said that we were across Europe. We're now across the globe. We've added APAC, so Australia, New Zealand, but also into the Middle East as well. And next plans are for the US, which is due to happen in the next year or so. Revenue last year, 1.2 billion. That should be euros, not dollars, which was a target that was set by Olivier Bretmeyer, our chairman, 2 years ago, was to double the business to €1 billion and achieve that. 1,200 employees. What all this means for you is we're underpinned by, I think in the UK, we're that cheesy saying, we're big enough to work with you, but small enough to care, but we're underpinned by a much bigger organisation. And what is value-added distribution? Well, it's all those elements there. From the companies that previously made up exclusive networks, Vidition and Arc Technology, they both came to market with, you know, their 2 visions were new and intuitive technology, but also providing a service and services to partners that VARs and our resellers have been expected to provide for years and years, but distribution was traditionally seen as probably the elements on there that they fulfilled were warehousing, and that was possibly it. It was the idea. You call your distributor, have you got it in stock, how cheaply can I buy it from you, and can you get it there tomorrow? Well, there's an awful lot more we do, and hopefully we're working with a number of you on across the board, from demand creation, so finding that lead through to closing and implementation and support on the back end as well. And I know that's something that we're all passionate about. So Fortinet and Exclusive, how long have we been working with them? Well, we've been distribution in the UK since 2006 as a group. It was the first vendor that, when the group was formed in France in 2000, it was the first vendor that they took on. Full pre-sales and pro services capabilities across Fortinet, so circa 450 pre-sales and professional services engagements in 2016, purely on Fortinet. 24/7 UK-based support. We handle level 1 and 2. So that is not something, unlike some of our vendors, we do not sell that. That is not, we do not sell our own support, but every one of our partners and their end users has access to our support team. Fully Fortinet accredited engineers, and if you've got any questions about that, I can go through what accreditations we hold, but it's right up to NSE 8. With a training centre in the UK, we hold the accredited training courses on a monthly basis in both Alton and Chesterfield, and also in Scotland for partners and end users. And we have comprehensive loan and CTAP pools, which I would imagine some of you use fairly regularly. So Fortinet, just a couple, this is a bit of a corporate slide, but founded in 2000. I think one of the things, I still have conversations with people and they're fairly new to Fortinet or still haven't heard who Fortinet are. I think brand awareness and marketing wise has never been their #1 play or #1 strength, but this is a company that's been around for 16 years. It's established, they've got over 2 million devices shipped. I think that's nearer to 3 million now. They IPO'd in 2009, very cash-rich company, 3,900 employees. I think the important piece about that is that around 50% of those are involved in research and development. This is a technology company. They may not have the greatest marketing engine in the world. That's part of the function that we fulfill here in the UK and other partners do elsewhere. But this is a company that is dedicated to technology, producing best of breed, and that's shown by #1 unit share worldwide and the number of patents and patents pending that they hold, and the fact there's 255,000 plus customers that rely on the technology. So end-to-end protection, as many of you who have seen the price list and scrolled through, there's an awful lot of tabs on Fortinet's price list, and sometimes it's in the past it's been hard to see the wood for the trees. FortiGate is the vast majority of what Fortinet do and Fortinet sales. However, they do have best of breed across the board. Now, if any of you can really get a foothold with Fortinet CCTV cameras, I will be both delighted, impressed and amazed at the same time. However, there is a market for it, so if you've got any questions around that, we'd be more than happy to engage with you on those. But one of the issues has been, how do we underpin this messaging? How do we take this message? It's not as simple as, well, we ring a customer one week and talk to them about FortiGate, then we're trying to call them the next week and talk about sandbox and wireless. What Fortinet have developed over the last sort of year, 18 months, is the security fabric. So Fortinet Security Fabric, I've seen a lot of interpretations of it. I've seen it presented as the equivalent of a technology nightclub. I've seen it likened to football stadiums, going through airport security. In truth, what it is, it's a cohesive message with which to espouse the virtues of Fortinet's portfolio. At its heart is the fact that Fortinet's technology is all underpinned by the Fortinet OS, their operating system. They can all talk to each other. This isn't this isn't point products which are kind of built can speak in pidgin English to each other. This is technology from the perimeter to the endpoint that works hand in hand, communicates, and can be used to mitigate, to identify, mitigate, and remediate the risks. They do that. It's broad, it's powerful, and it's automated. As I said, at the heart of Fortinet and what Fortinet do is the FortiGate. It was the first product. It was the foundation of Fortinet when they were formed in 2000, when Ken and Michael Z left Juniper. They were previously two of the founders at NetScreen, and they had a vision of how threats were changing, how people were using applications, how people were using the fairly rudimentary internet at the time, but the protection and security that was being put in place hadn't evolved, which is why they started Fortinet and had this vision for the next generation of firewall, which they called UTM, and still do to this day. So it's a fully scalable platform from data center to branch and small office. At data center, they've got the big unit, I guess as technical as my pitch gets is they've got small units for small opportunities, very big units for very big opportunities, and medium size for everything in between. But at the data center, we're seeing that the messaging or the real requirements there are high performance firewalling and VPN. At headquarters, they want the next generation firewalling aspect, and at branch and small office, it's that idea of UTM. Now, the truth is that all of these features, all of this functionality is available across the board, whether you're running a 60D in your home office or you're running 3810s or even the 5000 series chassis in data centers. The features and functionality across the board are identical, so which is why quite often if we've got opportunities for 3800Ds, we can test that, you know, apart from the throughput, we can be the testing can be done on 300 series, which makes it very easy from that side of things. But also from a techie's point of view, in terms of being trained up on the product and being confident whether you're installing in data center or headquarters, very, very easy to do, says he who doesn't have to do it. So the Fortinet Difference consolidated solution, not as unique now as it was 8 years ago when I started Exclusive. The likes of Palo Alto, Checkpoint all have their own version of UTM, that idea of taking a security posture, what would traditionally have been taken care of with point products and rolling that into one box, but it's the firewall and everything from VPN, application control, web filtering, through to Wi-Fi controllers and the ability to control tokens and two-factor authentication on the box as well. But it's single management console, integrated networking and security, the gaps are eliminated, and consolidating as a security policy. That's consolidating in terms of from a product point of view, but also when you think in terms of training, who's administrating the system, who's in charge of keeping this up to date and working on policies. So it's that cost and time consolidation as well. So what's in a Fortinet box? It's feature-rich firewalling. As I said, everything from the boxes are available as standalone firewalls, but Fortinet are famous for their bundles. So that's the idea of your security posture in a box. So IPS and IDS, application control, these are the features that I guess, from the guys that spoke up earlier, fairly experienced on Fortinet, you'll know about these. Now, I imagine you're aware of the more advanced ones as well, but some of the other features I think are often overlooked. The wireless controller, still something that I have discussions with people and they may be aware of it but haven't actually used that feature yet, or just weren't aware it's something that the Fortinet can do. Fortinet have had a wireless offering for several years now. Recently have bolstered that in the last 2 years with the purchase of Maru, itself a standalone, or successful wireless vendor. So what's happening is Fortinet have 3 pillars for their wireless. They have the infrastructure, which is the Maru piece, controlled by standalone wireless controllers. They have cloud, but then they have the integrated, which is where the wireless controller element of the Fortinet, which is intrinsic and built into the box, can be activated by adding APs, aligning those access points to the controller, and then those policies, security policies that you've set on your wired network are extended to the wireless network, but also the ability to split your your organisations, your in-house organisations network from guest access, so secure guest access as well, which surprisingly enough, secure Wi-Fi, secure guest access is only just starting to enter a lot of people's consciousness as a must. I still visit a lot of end users, but also a lot of partners as well, where they're using the equivalent of Netgear routers purchased from PC World. I can go into a lot of our customers' offices, and I authenticated onto their wireless network 2 years ago, and I'm automatically on, and I know that a lot of people would have left in that time. So I don't think it's quite as bad as the days when you'd have someone, technology expert working for the BBC, driving around the city with a metal coat hanger connected to a sniffer device and breaking into FTSE 500 companies. But this feature, particularly on the Fortinet, I think is underused. How many of you guys have actively been involved with or sold wireless opportunities with Fortinet?
Yeah.
And and in terms of those, have they mainly been the integrated side? Have they been a kind of an add-on sale to the FortiGate itself, or has it been led by a wireless opportunity?
No, it hasn't been led.
No.
It's been an add-on. Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's something that 2 years ago, absolutely, I think it was always seen as an add-on sale. I think that's where the technology sat. But what we're starting to see now is we're becoming involved in, I guess, standalone wireless-led opportunities where the FortiGate is being brought in as that controller element, as opposed to, well, we've got this FortiGate. Schools were a great example. Is we're buying the FortiGate, and actually, well, for a couple of, for a little bit extra money, we might as well make use of that technology. And as I said, we'll be covering the wireless in more detail in subsequent webinars.
Yeah, it tends to swing the deal because you obviously, you're investing in quite expensive devices, and that can also be a wireless controller. So,
I've said that's a great. It's a great way to get the wireless in there, and I don't think it will ever stop being a fantastic add-on to FortiGate sales. But I think absolutely the opportunity has certainly broadened out.
It just becomes a bit restrictive because obviously the certain devices can only handle so many APs. So when you start to get into larger environments, you're then having to look at larger FortiGates, and then sometimes it doesn't cost in, and we might have to look at a different solution. But
I'd say sometimes, opportunities like that would be an ideal chance to start looking at the infrastructure options. So looking at the wireless LAN controllers, because I see what you mean. If they want a lot of APs, they're possibly having to purchase a bigger FortiGate than they would need purely for firewalling. It does become expensive. So the infrastructure would definitely be an option to look at there. I'm starting to see that more and more. But no, that's interesting feedback. I appreciate that. Thank you. Virtual domains, again, pretty underused. We're starting to see this more and more, or the utilisation of the virtual domains. It used to be something that would be used for in-house testing. Technical guys and SEs would play around with it and think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, that's really great. That's a bit of fun, but wasn't necessarily utilised out in the field. But with the emergence of Fortinet's formal MSSP program and the number of partners that are now offering managed services, we're starting to see this more and more. We're seeing a switch away from the purchasing of multiple small boxes, one per customer, to the purchasing of 1500 series up to the 3000 series, and splitting those out, and then just being able to sell those out. And it's Fortinet's MSSP program which is allowing that to happen, because understand that it can be cost prohibitive when you're looking to fill the box out over 18 months, 2 years, but the purchase is up front. But certainly starting to take, again, many of your customers utilising, or many of your organisations utilising the virtual domains, or?
Yeah, we use this quite a bit.
Okay, that's brilliant. and then the advanced threat protection. So, as I said, Fortinet, a lot of products on the portfolio, but one of the technology pieces that has emerged in the last year or so, or 2 years, is the Forti Sandbox. So sandboxing is something that is really starting to enter the consciousness now. But the FortiGate collaborates with the Forti Sandbox, whether that be on-premise or on cloud. So on the lower end FortiGate units have the option to add a Forti Cloud license, a Forti Sandbox Cloud license, which extends that functionality. Because if someone's buying a 60D, they're probably not going to want to spend £40,000 on a Forti Sandbox, which makes sense. But the FortiGate's out in the field. If a new threat is seen, something that's unknown, it can be sent to the Forti Sandbox for quarantine and for looking at. That information is sent up to the FortiGuard Labs team, which I'll talk about in a minute. So it's receiving those malware packages from the Sandbox on a temporary basis and from FortiGuard service long term. Once those zero-day threats have been identified as malicious or non-malicious, that information is fed back to the Sandbox and the network that it came from, but also the FortiGuard Labs team, that information is pushed out to all of the FortiGates or FortiMails, FortiWebs, etc. out in the field. That is what the, when sometimes customers ask us, well, when I'm buying a license, when I'm buying the support, I get what I'm getting with support, because if the box breaks, I can pick up the phone to someone, speak to them, and I can get, work on a resolution. But sometimes with the FortiGuard license, the question comes back, well, what am I really getting there? And it's that idea of, well, when you receive your box, you unbox it, you plug it in, that is secure on that day. There is nothing, with the emergence of new threats on a daily basis now, or almost daily basis now, there's nothing to say, nothing to know how soon is that box going to become a risk for your environment. And it's that FortiGuard Labs underpinning everything that FortiGate do that keeps it secure. So in terms of FortiGuard Labs, hundreds of researchers, team of 300 plus researchers around the globe working 24/7 to discover emerging threats. They're receiving information from 2 million sensors, so 2 million units worldwide. The important bit is they're developing the countermeasures. So there's over 250,000 customers worldwide that are kept up to date from a security point of view, that are safe from emerging threats and tweaks on existing threats that are out there. And the FortiGuard team have discovered over 300 zero-day threats, which is unique in terms of the other vendors out there. It doesn't sound like an awfully large number, but 300 brand new, never before seen threats. A lot of the threats we experience, we find are slight tweaks on existing malware, ransomware, etc., etc. It takes an awful lot for there to be a brand new threat, and it takes an even more to mitigate that and push that out, push that countermeasure out. So what does it mean? There's a lot of stats here, but this is what FortiGuard Labs are doing per minute, per week, and in total. So 470,000 network intrusions resisted or stopped per minute. That's quite a staggering figure when you think about it. You think how long a minute is and how many potential threats or potential breaches that is. 160,000 malicious websites blocked. 1.8 million new and updated AV definitions. So a bit of anecdotal evidence and just underpins and backs up exactly why FortiGuard Labs is unique. Everything Fortinet do, as I said, they're a technology company. A FortiGate box is fantastic, but really all it is a metal box with wires and LEDs and flashing lights in it. It's the intelligence and the intelligence from FortiGuard Labs which underpins it and makes it a viable network security product and sets it aside from the competition. So FortiGuard Labs is one of Fortinet's USPs. I'd say the other is the FortiASIC. So Fortinet use purpose-built ASIC chips. They've done that since the very beginning. there are barriers to entry for any other vendor. So the chips that Fortinet use in their boxes couldn't work in a smartphone, couldn't work in a laptop. However, they're very narrow-minded in terms of what they do, which for the purposes of firewalling and speed and performance is the secret sauce. So parallel path processing. Fortinet have 3 processors in their units. What this allows them to do is when a packet comes in, when a task needs to be performed, they're able to divert it to the most appropriate one. So the content inspection chip, you can set that for any packets, any data coming in that may well be malicious or contain a threat. They're able to divert it to the content inspection chip. If it's regular traffic, no threat at all, it can be diverted to the network processor. That allows that speed and performance, that low latency to be upheld, which underpins Fortinet's price and performance model. So Fortinet are known for price and performance. They don't believe the two need to be mutually exclusive. The fact that their technology is proprietary, nothing purchased from the outside, and they've been developing the chipset since 2000. So from the first ratification of boxes right through to the E units we're seeing now, the difference between a D and an E would be based on the new ASIC platform, which the current one is CP8 and NP6, allows them to keep those costs down, which does blow the water, competition out of the water in an awful lot of examples. I spoke earlier about the fact that Fortinet are developed on one like OS. So whether you're using the hardware, the hypervisor and virtuals, or in the cloud, it's all based upon the same platform. And as I said, from a consolidation, a cost setting, etc., that's fantastic. But that also underpins the message on the security fabric. If they're speaking the same language, that's how these how the technology can communicate with each other, but keep that performance and latency to an absolute minimum. All underpinned by the FortiManager. So for multiple deployments across vast distances, FortiManager can be employed. Single pane of glass management option, and then from the virtual side as well to support all the major players. So VMware, Microsoft Azure, etc. And actually at the recent Fortinet GPC in January, there was a big play made, or a lot of support from those partners, Microsoft, etc. And we'll be working with those guys an awful lot more over the next year, and I'm sure working with our customers and their end users over the next year on deployments and projects where Microsoft Azure, etc. is a major play. So I just wanted to give an example of a few of the Fortinet boxes. As I said, they've got small boxes. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the 60D, Fortinet's biggest seller of all time. It's a 3 gig firewall that for a non-bundle variety is listed for about £650. So again, in terms of firewall throughput, and it's sometimes dangerous to you can't base anything on pure firewall throughput, because we know there's an awful lot more that goes into sizing a box, selecting a box for an opportunity than purely the throughput, but very, very competitive box, and fits an awful lot of environments outside of just small and home office. The 1500D introduced about 18 months ago, and the uptake of it is one of the most common boxes that we're seeing now. 80 gig throughput for around £26,000 as a list price for the non-bundle. And to give you an idea, if you were, again, slightly dangerous to do it, but if you're talking throughput figures, one of the competitors out there, to get an equivalent throughput, you'd be looking at around £90,000 list. So again, that price versus performance conversation that we're constantly having around Fortinet, and I think sometimes it sounds like we reiterate it too much. It's really where Fortinet come into play and come into their own. I'm sure you're all familiar with the 1500D. Then at the top end, you work up towards the 3810D and the other 3,000 unit boxes, 320 gig throughput firewall, and that's about 250,000. So the more of these we can sell, I think we'll all be happy. But in terms of, again, that price and performance, it just works, and it fits the bill for an awful lot of customers. And I think, again, I don't want to sort of beat this too much, but that price and performance is key, and where Fortinet win. Again, how many of you are familiar with, have undertaken, reported back CTAP installations? So CTAP is Fortinet Cyber Threat Assessment Report. Other vendors have similar undertakings, but it's the ability to carry out what would traditionally just have been a POC, bit of feature and functionality testing. Let's have a look at the throughput of the box. But what you get at the end of it is an all-singing, all-dancing report that will list that everything from security and threat prevention, how many threats were detected, right through to user productivity. So what's going on in your network, what are people using, how often are they using it, why isn't it being blocked, etc. Installed completely transparent mode, so it doesn't interfere with traffic. We recommend 2 weeks for the report to be run, depending on the network. Sometimes it can be a bit more. The beauty of this is we're seeing this become very effective with revisiting existing partners, but also with new opportunities as well. It's just an extra bit of peace of mind, an extra bit of evidence that a customer can be given before having to make a decision of how and where they part with their budget. The key with this is, I think in the US they've passed well over 500 CTAPs. They've got an 80%, 75 to 80% successful close rate, where the CTAP is presented back to the customer. We're starting to see some fantastic results around this. Now, where it's working is, this is an opportunity at the end of the evaluation to go back into the customer, get all the key players around the table and present this report back. This is not something that should ever just be simply be emailed across and we'll have a read to this and let me know what you think. This is a chance to go back in and show the customer exactly what's going on the network, what haven't they been seeing, what are the threats. It gives a rating for that organization's security posture against others in their industry, whether it be manufacturing, retail, etc., but also where they stand across the board as well. Very, very compelling stuff, and appeals as much to the technical, the CTO, as it does the CEO or the MD, whoever, everyone that could possibly hold the purse strings and sign off an opportunity, sign off a PO, it's going to get something out of this report. Yeah.
Mark, just out of interest,
Yes.
that report there, is that something that's kind of a generated dummy report that we could have?
Yeah, yes, I can get you a dummy report, absolutely. We've got an event actually as well. It's technical, but it'll be going out to the guys within your organisations on the 16th of March in London, which is kind of a relaunch of the CTAP program as well. Maybe looking to do, if it's something that's of interest, maybe looking to do something similar, either an event or a webinar around CTAP. But I think this is the year where in the UK we really take hold with this. As I said, we're starting to see some great results from it, and it's just that extra peace of mind. But I can absolutely, what I'll do is I'll get the details from, all your details from Sue, and I can send out a dummy CTAP report as well for you to have a look through.
Perfect, thank you.
And then we carry, so CTAP can be run on FortiGate 100Ds, 300Ds, and 1500Ds. As I said earlier, we have a dedicated CTAP loan pool that's set aside from our standard loan pool. So if you do have opportunities with new or existing customers, let us know, and we can work with you to make sure those boxes are put in, the reports are generated, and hopefully POs are closed as well. Now, I've spoken a lot, sort of anecdotally, about what we've done and about what Fortinet have done. Just wanted to just reiterate that it's not just Fortinet and Exclusive talking up Fortinet, it's the third-party organisations as well. So only going to list one, but for the 8th time, Gartner named Fortinet the leader in the Magic Quadrant. For UTM, the UTM Magic Quadrant was created for Fortinet. They were the only player at the time. As you can see, there's an awful lot of other names on there now, but Fortinet's still leading the way. That's for, you know, they show they've got the vision and the ability to execute now. Again, this is a company that's 16 years old and has been building this technology from the ground up for 16 years, very successfully. Wanted to sort of talk about the upsell opportunity. I had a conversation with a partner last week, may have been the week before. They've been a Fortinet partner for you know, some time now, successfully starting to branch out into the enhanced tech portfolio, and they wanted to, I guess, explore ways that they could grow the opportunity further. I think something that's often missed out is, well, our customers got a standard that they always purchase 8x5, or that they're strictly 1 year. We've got the opportunity to upsell from 8x5 to 24x7, from 1 year to multi-year, and it sounds a bit glib and a bit simplistic when I say that. And it's like, well, you've got the ability, you know, we can grow those deal sizes, but it really is something we can do, and we're seeing a big push over the last year to 24x7 support. If the customer's going to be, I guess, handing over that money in the first place, it's to protect their network, and 24x7 is just that extra peace of mind. And again, with the multi-year, there's a cost saving there. Purchasing 1 year, upgrading that to multi-year gives you the ability to, what is that total cost of ownership going to be? If we're writing this down over 3 years, 5 years, if we've got the ability to make that investment from day one, then we can, over that term, there's cost saving and trading up as well. So take advantage of the evolution of the FortiGate platform. There's a lot of B units out there, a lot of C units, and even some A units, which are renewed year on year. Fortinet's trade-up program, very competitively priced, and really does work in terms of getting those customers off the older platforms, but at a price that isn't prohibitive from them doing so, where they think, well, I'm just going to keep flogging this horse for an awful long time until something does go really wrong. So upgrading the support, upgrading the licenses, I guess one of the pushbacks on that often is it's that initial investment. It's particularly on the multi-year. It's not as simple as going from 1 year to 3 year, because we need to find the money. You know, how are we going to spread that cost? I'm trying to talk about exclusive capital. So exclusive capital is in-house. It's part of the Exclusive Networks group. It's specialized financing services. That works across any product, so whether it be the hardware or, as we've just discussed, the licenses and the support aspect, cloud, virtual services, and education even, so it's a rolling training into. It gives us the ability to take an opportunity, look at what the customer wants to achieve long term, not just in the short term, so not just looking at the budget they have now, but looking at what they would like to do over the next 2, 3, 5 years. It's not just the initial investment in kit or support, it's we need to get people trained. We need to make sure that for the life of this unit, which we deem to be 3 years, 5 years, we're getting the best deal and represent, but also getting the best security. So at the heart of all of this is not just spreading cost and how much it's going to cost me. The reason they're putting this technology in place is to secure their network, so that is at the heart of the message. Any finance shape, so short term up to 5 years. We've got opportunities where they'd like to purchase now, but they may have a split budget, so new budgets might be coming in 3 months' time, in April. So, well, okay, you can use what budget you've got from your pot now, you can defer the rest of the payment until April, or you can spread that cost. You could pay it all in April, you could spread that over 3 months, 2 years, 5 years, whatever you want to do. Very, very flexible. Matches spend with lifespan. designed to enable the channel. I think we're seeing an awful lot of deals. The largest of which we had was in December. We saw an opportunity grow from £500,000 in the UK to 1.2 million, and that was purely through the fact that Exclusive Capital was engaged. The cost of money of extending over a longer term was very agreeable and made financial success, sense for the end user. And just by engaging Chris Armitage in that opportunity, we more than doubled the deal size for all concerned, and got the customer, the end user, what they wanted and what they needed for a price that worked for them. And again, driving bigger deal sizes, multi-year and 8x5 to 24x7, and training, etc. So any details you want on that, I can send these details out. Chris Armitage is the gentleman that runs Exclusive Capital in the UK, and more than happy to introduce any of you to him, or start talking about any specific examples you have. How many of you work with financing companies on opportunities? How many of your end users are keen to do that? Something you've had experience with? I'd imagine some of you will have. It's a lot more common than I realised until I started getting involved with Exclusive Capital, and a great way to grow deal sizes. So again, just wanted to starting to wrap up now, conscious of your guys' time. A few examples of where, why, and how Fortinet are winning. So finance, trading environment with time-sensitive applications. In terms of finance, low latency is the overriding message at that price performance. Reduce latency to increase performance of applications and maximum performance in data centers, and how we win proof of concept and lab testing. I can't stress enough, when we get a box up, I think it's the old vendor adage of 60% of the time we win in a bake-off every time, but when people use the technology, they tend to like it and they don't want to take it out. And it's compelling commercial proposition, competitive TCO. It's that total cost of ownership when looking at the price of Fortinet across the FortiGate and the rest of the security fabric, it makes financial success. Public sector, so as an example, we replace a legacy estate. Again, price performance, competitive TCOs. We're future-proofed against advanced threats, and a comprehensive cloud proposition was what they were looking to, and simpler migration to the cloud, something that's on a lot of people's lips at the moment. I had strong partnership with the customer. I will say that working with Fortinet is easy. You know, I've worked with a lot of vendors over the years, and Fortinet are easy to do business with, very manoeuvrable. They've got the, you've got the peace of mind of a technology that is been around an awful long time, but in the UK, in a lot of ways, they've got the flexibility of a startup and a very comprehensive team as well, whether it be public sector, manufacturing, retail, etc. Very comprehensive in terms of account management. I'm sure many of you have got relationships with a lot of the guys there. If you don't, or you've got specific areas you think you'd like to be introduced to, just let me know and I can broker those introductions as well. And very consultancy-led, and upgraded the current legacy infrastructure in line, and brought it into line with what they actually wanted to achieve. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through. See, I've taken 45 minutes of your time, so I appreciate that. Bit of a whistle-stop tour through the FortiGate. FortiGate, it's something I could talk about for hours and hours. There's so many features. It's feature-rich, and we start getting into the pricing as well. There's an awful lot there, but I wanted this to be fairly broad to start with. Let me just open this up. Okay, chat. Are there any questions at this stage? I know there's an awful lot more we could do, but again, we wanted this to be fairly back to basics, just reinvigorate the messaging around FortiGate. But are there any questions now? If not, I think you should all have my details, hopefully, or I can certainly put them up or get them across to you. But anything you'd like sort of answered now?
That's good for me. Thank you ever so much, Mark.
No, a pleasure. Appreciate you attending. Thank you.
Right, thank
Yeah,
you.
this is this is Ian from BT.
Oh, hi.
Hi there. I've got a question about the VDOM
Yes.
technology and the underlying resource. So now, just looking at the other side of the coin, you know, if you're using the virtual product,
Yes.
and you're obviously using an underlying hypervisor,
Yep.
you know, you control at the hypervisor level, you know, how much resource you're going to give the firewall, yeah,
Yes.
cores, memory. Now, at the VDOM, in the VDOM technology, my understanding is that you can't do the same thing. But can you clarify that? Is there any way of, you know, ensuring a minimum resource for a VDOM? You know, if you've got, you know,
so it's so you wanted to almost traffic shape your VDOMs and what resource from the box is total you're going to assign to each one.
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's say in an enterprise environment you might run VDOM, you might say split a number of internal firewalls, let's say,
yeah,
with different VDOMs for different departments and functions. In the service provider space, you know, you would do that per customer, yeah?
Yes.
Now, as far as I'm aware, and I'm very new to the product, there isn't a way of saying, okay, well, I want to guarantee a minimum amount of throughput, you know, resource, however you measure that, to an individual VDOM. Is it possible in any way?
So it was my understanding that you could traffic shape in effect what you were going to assign to customer A, customer B, customer C. Interesting to hear that you think there may not be. So that's something.
No. Traffic shape is something different, isn't it?
No, I don't mean traffic shape, but you want to make sure you're assigning the right resource to each VDOM. The appropriate resource.
Is there a way of guaranteeing a minimum level of resource?
I believe there is, but hi there.
Tim, quick one. So yes, in terms of the VDOMs and that, you can actually assign the resourcing on it. There is actually a section within the actual unit when you're allocating VDOMs and setting them up, how you want to actually allocate the resources per VDOMs as well. So, for example, you know, if you've got different types of traffic going through, you know, you may want to allocate different resources in terms of disk space and customize some of those settings. There's a global setting, so you actually have global resource settings, and then you have a per VDOM resource settings as well. Where you can actually go through and allocate resourcing per VDOM. So you can those resources include things like sessions, VPNs. You can even go down to the number of users going through SSL, plus logging disk quotas in there. It's really detailed and what you can actually configure and set up the VDOMs. There is a default setting for everything, and then you can actually allocate it out.
Okay, thank you. I'll have to delve into the manual there then. Yeah, good, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was Mark, wasn't it, speaking?
That was Tim, and I'll just say that's a prime example of why I love Tim Wiggins. Thank you, Tim.
Wiggins. Thank you, Tim.
Top man, thanks, Tim. Any other questions, guys? No? Brilliant. If there's nothing else, thank you for your time. As I said, we're going to be hosting these monthly. We'll be sending out the information on what's coming next. But again, the idea is to just reintroduce the technology that's underpinning the Fortinet security fabric and giving a clear idea of what the fabric means and how you can take that message to your customers. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.